compared to the European honeybee, the Africanized bee is much more aggressive, and we're seeing that aggression all over southern Arizona.
The Smithsonian says Africanized bees were imported into Brazil in the 1950s. Over 20 queen bees managed to escape, forming hybrid populations with European honeybees. They then spread all the way up to the U.S. The first appeared in our state in 1993, and since being introduced to Brazil, these bees have killed around 1,000 people. We've covered bee attacks extensively over the years.
Yeah, just this May, 8 people were stung in a single bee attack in Tucson, including a baby. 2 of those stung were sent to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Fire crews covered that swarm in foam.
Yeah, and another bee swarm later in that month of May, shutting down a convenience store near Catalina State Park. Now, the rise in bee attacks is partially because of the heat and partially because of monsoon. Yesterday, a woman in Cochise County suffering around 20 bee stings from a swarm attack.
9 on your side's Reina Preciado introduces us to one bee removal expert who's seeing hives with hundreds of thousands of bees.
I'm here in Sierra Vista, where a local bee expert says is one of the biggest hives he's seen so far this summer. Most hives are 2 to 3 feet, but this one in this shed is at least 8 feet. Bee removal expert Reed Booth says most hives have around 50,000 bees, but recently he's seen hives with twice to 6 times that many bees.
Here in Cochise County, because we had a major monsoon season and the flowers came out and the bees have had a lot of nectar flow, well, when the nectar flow is happening, the queens lay more eggs so they can propagate the area with bees and swarm, and that's what's been happening.
He says these are Africanized honeybees, which produce more honey but are much more aggressive than European honeybees.
I've watched them kill a 1,000-pound hog. They're relentless, and also they don't care if you're dead or not. They'll keep stinging.
He says once the attack pheromone is sent through the hive, it triggers a swarm. The swarms from this monsoon have led to attacks more severe than he's ever seen.
We have had such an onslaught of killer bee attacks in Cochise County this summer. It's literally insane.
He says there have been almost 20 attacks within the last 2 weeks. One of the victims is Randy Archuleta.
I was just covered in bees.
He was stung over 300 times.
It happened so fast, but it was so long. It was never going to end. These bees will not stop until you or they are dead.
During a landscaping job, Archuleta hit this water heater, triggering a swarm of around 200,000 bees.
I turned around and right outside of that water heater tank, it was just this black wave, and then it was on from there.
He had nothing to protect himself from the bees.
I ripped my shirt off at one point in time just so I have something to swat around. I'm just like, get off of me! You know, it was nonstop. I wanted my life to end the first 30 seconds. That's how excruciating it was. It was like running on fire. You might as well light yourself on fire. That's how it felt.
Archuleta ran inside a home and waited for paramedics. Following the attack, Booth was called to remove the hive that attacked Archuleta. Booth says people should check their homes for any bee activity. He says if you see a bee on a flower, you should be fine. But if you see bees coming out of a crack, hole, or any hanging from a tree, that's when you should call an expert. In Sierra Vista, Reina Preciado, KEGA 9 on your side.
Here are now some statistics from Tucson Fire. They say there have been 26 bee swarm calls this year in the city. This time last year, there were 29 swarm calls.